Welcome back, everyone, to the Rampage channel. Hope everyone's having an awesome day wherever you are. Alright, today we're going to teach you guys how to solve chess puzzles. Going to teach you guys some calculation methods and basic things you guys should know before you jump in to solve the puzzles. Alright, so we have puzzle 1 here. So the king just moved to b1. So what I love to do first is take account of the stock of the position. So let's see the material. So white has a rook on h7, rook on h8, knight on d8, so and a queen, right? So black has rook, queen, knight. So we're currently down a rook with black. So especially when you're down material, especially a lot of material, you want something immediate, something quick. Um, so we look at checks, right? Especially when you're looking at something immediate, you want something check worthy, right? So if we look at checks, we have rook f1, we have rook b2, and we have queen a2. And we have queen e1, right? So if you look at the position, rook b2 doesn't make much sense, does it? Right? Because after king b2, you're not doing anything. I teleported the king to b3, but you guys know what I'm saying, right? So rook f1, then the queen takes the rook. So we'll leave it to two options. Obviously, queen a2 just doesn't make sense because the king's going to eat the queen. So right now, black has one option, which is to swoop in the queen here. And this is a very good move because the rook is guarding and patrolling the second rank, so the white king cannot escape. So we've looked at a possible check. Now, before you play that, you want to see if anything else looks good. So captures. So we can take the pawn, which you already concluded was bad, or we can take the knight on d8, which is a possible, but the rook's just going to take our queen. So captures isn't good either. And attacks, especially when you're an intermediate player or an advanced player, or sorry, an intermediate player or a beginner player, then checks are going to go along with attacks because you want to check the king and attack the white king. So we saw no better option but to check the queen, check the king. White has to block, and then we take the queen, and we're winning by checkmate, right? Because the rook is patrolling this rank. All right. So puzzle 2. So if we look at puzzle 2, let's see. So the knight just sacked itself on b7. So this is very interesting of a puzzle. Okay, so again, checks, captures, attacks. So if we look at the checks, we don't have any. So we've already done that down. So now captures attacks, right? So we can capture the knight. It just hung itself. That seems interesting. So if we take the knight, we're going to need some calculation because these pawns are scary. So after we take the knight, white is going to try to push the pawn because they want to attack our knight. Now, he's attacking our knight. Does that mean we have to move the knight? No. But if we don't move the knight, the pawns are going to come in, and that's scary, right? So we want to move the knight. So after takes, c6, we look for checks, captures, attacks. So can we attack the king? Yes. Does that go with checks? Yes. Is there a possible check in the position? Yes. We can check the knight, check the king on b5, right? So now the king can't go here, it can't go here, so it has to leave guard of its pawn. So let me show you guys in a different color. c6, knight d6 check. The king is going to go to a6, and then we take the pawn with the king, and they can't push b7 because our knight patrols the square. So again, checks, captures. If there's an attack, that kind of goes with checks, especially in the earlier puzzles. All right. So again, take stock of the position. Step 1, material. So black has bishop, bishop, rook, rook, knight. Bishop, bishop, rook, rook, knight. But there's a queen. Black has a queen. So are we down material? Yes. Do we need something immediate if we're down a queen? Yes. So checks or captures. So limit yourself to those. Let's look at checks. So is there a check in the position? Yes. How many? One. We can only check the king like this. We can't teleport the bishop to the king. If that could work, life chess would be awesome, But you can't really do that. So white only has really one move to calculate, rook h6. So now the white king cannot go to g8, it cannot go to h7, so it has to come forward. So now, again, checks, captures, attacks. So again, we're down to queen. Do we need something immediate? Yes. Can we take the knight? That's a capture. Does it work? Not quite, because the pawn can take us back. So what we actually need to do is slide the rook forward, because the knight is going to guard the rook here. Alright, so this is going to be mate. Alright, so we're moving on to puzzle 3. Okay, so let's look at the position. So white just moved their king forward. So again, checks, captures, attacks. So, you know, we can, if we look at the checks, there's one check here, that doesn't really do anything, we just take it. Check here, that just takes it. So, we have to look at checks. And for this one, it's a very long range check. You can actually swoop your queen down. Swoop in the queen, and that's a check. So that's a possible check. Now let's look at captures. Can we capture something? We can take the rook. We could take the rook. Okay. What if the queen takes? Okay, something to think about. Then we also have this check. So that could work. But now do we have another capture? Yes, we have this capture. So when you have a lot of choices, guys, look at the check that you first see. Because that's kind of the thing that really looks out at you, right? For example, I'll show you guys why rook f2 does not work. It doesn't work because if they play queen f2, then it does work because we can actually check the king and then they don't have escape squares. But they can actually deflect us by queening, and then if we take the queen with our queen on c1, then they take back the rook and then we don't have any checkmate. So let's backtrack a little bit. So rook f2 we saw doesn't work. Queen c7 doesn't work because that hangs a rook. So also make sure when you have especially long range pieces like a rook or a queen, you gotta see what your opponent's trying to do. Don't only calculate for yourself. So we give this check. That's the only thing we have left to see. And now the king is boxed in because they can't go here because we take the bishop. And we check, what can white king do? It has to move here. Can it move there? No! It can't move there, right? Because we take the king. We take it. Okay? So, they're out of options. So this is going to be the right move. They try to sacrifice the bishop, but they can't move anywhere. Alright. So, we are on puzzle number 4. Alright, let's see. So, step 1, count the material. Let's see. So the knight, rook, bishop, bishop, queen. Bishop, rook, rook, queen. So we're down 2 pieces. That's not good. So are we down pieces? Yes. A lot of pieces? Probably. Yeah. I would classify that as a lot of pieces. So do we need something immediate? Yes. So checks. Immediately, if you have a lot of pieces down, you should look at checks, guys. So, checks. We can check the pawn with the king, but does that do anything? If they move here, then we get the queen. But if they block our pawn, have we accomplished anything? No. So, we look at another check. We can check the queen like this, but they can just take. So that doesn't work. Now, if we play... So, okay, that's 2 checks. Now we have another check. We can take the bishop. Ooh, that looks good. Is that a capture also? Yes. Is the capture check combo normally going to work a lot? Yeah. In a lot of these earlier puzzles, you're going to see a lot of positions like this. And in fact, the move is taking the bishop. Because the king cannot escape anywhere because the pawn is also guarding the queen. So we looked at a check, and also inherently that's a capture. We don't have many other moves to look at because again, they're attacking our queen. So we actually take the bishop on g7. Alright. Moving forward. We are on puzzle number 5. Alright. So, let's see. So they played d3 just now. So this, if you guys are getting to the higher levels, you know, this is a video that you'll still learn from for sure. You probably already see the kind of idea. When your opponent's king doesn't have many pieces on the back rank, you can try to exploit it, right? So this kind of goes into our themes. See my themes short for 5 checkmate patterns you need to know. After this video, don't click away from this video. So they played g3. So now let's look at checks. Actually, let's look at captures first. So if we capture this rook, then that doesn't do anything. Do we have any more captures? Yeah, we can take the pawn, but then we lose their queen. That doesn't look good. So let's go to checks, right? Also, we're down a rook. So again, are we down material? Yes. So do we need something immediate? Yes. So look at checks. So can we play this? No. Can we set up that idea? Yes. So we can actually here check the black king. The king has to move out. And again, the back rank checkmate theme. We can swoop in the queen to the back rank and then follow it up with the rook coming in. And we are going to deliver some nice checkmate. Alright. So we are on puzzle number 6. Alright. So the king moves to g1. So again, checks, captures, attacks. Let's take inventory here. So we have rook, queen, versus queen, rook. Okay. Let's take account pawns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're down 2 pawns. So, pawns are not a lot of pieces, but again, when you're down pieces, you want something immediate, you want to check. So let's look at checks. Captures are not going to do anything for this especially puzzle, because if we take the pawn here, what does that do? That doesn't do anything. We lose our rook. But you can take the pawn here, but then we lose our queen. There's another YouTube channel if you want to go see people lose queens. So, okay, king g1. So, checks. We can check the the king like this. Does that work? No, because the queen actually just takes our queen. So, checks. When you have 2 pieces like this, exposed pawns, again, when pawns are pushed, you gotta see what squares behind them that they exposed. Dark squares, Swiss cheese. We can actually exploit 2 pieces on dark squares, slide the queen back. That's a check. And we actually fork the queen and the king. The king moves out of the way, so we take the rook, and we are up materially. Like I said, not all puzzles end with checkmate. If you don't look for checkmate if you can, but if they don't end in checkmate, and if you're up a substantial amount of material, which you're up a rook, then you've solved the puzzle, right? So don't always tunnel on checkmate, because you're not always gonna get it. All right. So the opponent just played rook c8. So let's look at the inventory. So bishop, bishop, knight, rook, rook, queen, bishop, knight, knight, queen, rook, rook. So is the material even? Yes. So right now, let's look at checks. It just so happens that we can also capture stuff. So when you have a capture and a check at the same thing, that's the first thing you want to calculate, because that's very forcing. You want to make a very forcing move that your opponent has to respond to. So what am I talking about? You can actually take the knight. So that's one of the captures. You can also take the bishop. You can also take the rook. If you take the rook, you're just going to lose your queen. If you take the bishop, you're going to lose your queen. So you don't have many options. And your queen is also attacked right now. So you need to make an immediate decision. So if we take the knight here, black is either going to take with the pawn or the queen. Obviously, they're going to take with the queen more than the pawn because they don't want to weaken their king. But unfortunately for them, their king is already weakened. So we can just take the knight here. And if queen takes, what do we have right now? If you want to try to solve yourself, pause the video. We can actually use the batteries, what it's called, when the less important piece is behind a more important piece. They're aiming for the squares, especially a bishop and a queen. They're dynamite, so you can swoop in all the way. The knight used to guard the square, but it doesn't anymore. So you can swoop in, and you can check the black king. Alright, you guys, I'm gonna stop there. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like the video and make sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed the calculation video, the puzzles, and hopefully you guys learned something. Make sure to comment if you guys are confused about anything, and I will see you guys soon in the next Rampage video. See you guys next time.